Hello all, I'm Erin Lyle, one of the coordinators of this year's Excellence in Public Interest Awards, along with Cassie. We are so excited to be hosting the awards this year. On behalf of Texas Law Fellowships, thank you all for joining us tonight to honor your classmates, faculty, staff, and community members. Others are going to say this tonight, but I just wanted to start out by emphasizing how exceptional this year's nominees were. Not only did they do fabulous public interest work that really helped communities and people in need, they did it under some of the most difficult, evolving circumstances that law students and law schools have ever faced. That's why we added two special awards this year: an award to honor a Spring 2020 graduate for their public interest excellence, and a Pandemic Response Award for a nominee who has worked to address problems directly created by the pandemic. I was putting this together and thinking about how public interest work around UT Law has always looked like a lot of different things. It's looked like law students sitting with their clients in jail cells or in law libraries or at their kitchen tables. It's looked like attorneys fighting for civil rights in court, or faculty and staff advisors training law students, or clinics or conferences, and countless other experiences. And what's amazing is that not only did public interest still look like all of those things this year, it looked like all of that and more. So I am so proud to introduce tonight nominees who are true innovators and leaders, who were determined to provide life-changing legal assistance to communities in need, no matter what challenges the world threw in their way. I'm sure I won't be the last person to say it tonight, but I wanted to thank you all, our nominees, and our wider UT Law community for your time, your energy, your passion, and your dedication to the mission of public interest. So I'd like to introduce next Elizabeth Bangs, the Assistant Dean of Student Affairs, who will be opening tonight's EPIA Awards. Take it away, Dean Bangs.
Hey Texas Law. Thank you to Texas Law Fellowships for asking me to be here tonight. TLF and the law school's public interest community are particularly close to my heart. As some of you know, in my very brief career as a real lawyer, I was a disability rights advocate, so it's an honor to be with you. The core purpose of the University of Texas at Austin is to transform lives for the benefit of society, which is where our slogan, "What starts here changes the world," comes from. As Longhorns, we have a responsibility to serve as a catalyst for positive change in Texas and beyond, and that's certainly what tonight's honorees are doing. One of the sweetest parts of my job is watching Texas law students change the world before and after they leave Towns Hall, especially as in the case of tonight's honorees, when they have also become my dear friends. It has been especially fun to watch Emily Eby become a nationally recognized voting rights activist and Twitter celebrity over the last several months. I knew she'd made it when Rachel Maddow retweeted her the week before last. Tonight's award is just icing on the cake. This is always a special evening, but I think it's especially important to recognize the pro bono and public interest work of our students and alumni this year. Brian Stevenson has said, "You don't change the world with the ideas in your mind, but with the conviction in your heart." And this year has been all about heart. You have done the work over Zoom, separated from your families and classmates. You have done the work while also supporting family and friends suffering from COVID and job loss, or while recovering from COVID yourselves. We are all so very tired, but you have kept going, serving your communities and your clients because of the conviction in your heart. You have already changed the world. Sometimes that change can be hard to see. We have watched the pandemic devastate our communities of color, revealing once again the deep inequalities across our state and country. Even as the trial of the officer who killed George Floyd nears its end, we have witnessed more police killings. It's easy to feel discouraged. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg reminds us that real change, enduring change, happens one step at a time. Thank you for continuing to take those steps. The law school is so grateful for your service and proud of your work. Congratulations to tonight's honorees. Hook 'em.
Hello, my name is Cassie Geigen, and I am a coordinator of EPIA along with Erin Lyle. First, thank you to Dean Bangs for opening up the celebration tonight. And before we get into announcing this year's EPIA recipients, we will hear from Andrea Marsh, the director of the Mithoff Pro Bono program, who has a few words about the accomplishments of public interest in pro bono at Texas Law.
I'm Andrea Marsh, director of the Richard and Jenny Mithoff Pro Bono program. I want to thank Texas Law Fellowships for giving me the opportunity to speak at this year's Excellence in Public Interest Awards ceremony. The APIAs are always a great opportunity to reflect on all of the amazing public interest work that's being done in the Texas law community. I'm particularly happy to have the opportunity to celebrate all of the work that members of our law school community have been able to do this year, even under the difficult circumstances of the pandemic and in a new world of remote lawyering. In the Mithoff program, we spent last summer preparing for a year of virtual pro bono, and we've done our best to sustain the work we do with Texas law students and for people in our community with unmet legal needs. Our students have met the challenge we gave them and have volunteered their time over and over again this year to help others, even when many of the students themselves were struggling with their own challenges during the pandemic. So thank you. I'm also thrilled to join you in celebrating the work of two members of the Mithoff program team who are receiving APIAs this year. First, I want to recognize Sarah Sedgwick, who's receiving the UT Staff Award. Students may first come to know Sarah by her emails, but she's so much more. She's what makes the Mithoff program run. A lot of the projects we organize operate on scale. That is, on our ability to prepare students to perform a discrete but essential task for a large number of service recipients in a clinic event setting. So that's a lot of law student volunteers, lots of clients, lots of case files, and this year, lots of DocuSign. We've grown our pro bono offerings a lot over the past 7 years or so without increasing our staff at all. And it's Sarah's ability to come up with ways to do our work more efficiently and effectively that has made this possible. She's also in the middle of a lot of supervising attorneys with wildly different rhythms and management styles. I am one of them, and she's always graceful and at least externally calm at handling everything that's thrown at her. Thank you, Sarah, and congratulations on this award. I also want to say thanks to Lucy Wood, who's receiving the Professor Award tonight. Lucy is so energetic and so passionate about her work with clients and students. At the beginning of every year, before orientation is even over, I always meet at least a handful of students who have already been moved by her charisma, who chose Texas law, at least in part because of something she said to them during the admissions process, and who want to know how to sign up for everything she's working on in the pro bono program. When the Justice Center put together a newsletter article this winter on the 1L pro bono experience during the COVID pandemic, the article ended up being a love letter to Lucy and to the Include program and Include pro bono projects she created. So I'm not at all surprised to see Lucy recognized by TLF today, but I'm so glad you are recognizing her. Congratulations again, Lucy and Sarah. And thanks to all of you for this year, when we didn't let COVID stop us from doing the work that brings us together. Hook 'em.
Our first award of the night is the Student Award, celebrating a current Texas law student and their accomplishments and recognizing the impact that they have made on their peers in such a short period of time.
Good evening. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Anna Harris. She is one of the most devoted students to pro bono and public service work and has exemplified that through her many pro bono projects and her leadership in the pro bono community here at UT. Please welcome Anna Harris.
Thank you for that introduction. My name is Anna Villaseñor Harris, and I'm happy to be receiving this award today. I want to thank everyone at the Pro Bono program and TLF for giving me this award. Pro Bono has defined my experience at Texas Law. Without it, I would not have received so many hours of actual legal experience and being able to help the community that I love. At Texas Law, I've been able to serve both as the student leader for the Gender Affirmation Project and as a student attorney for the Entrepreneurship and Community Development Clinic. In both of these, I got to serve a role where I helped people in our community And I learned how important it is as a student attorney and as a future attorney to be able to complete pro bono and to give back. We learn so much at Texas Law, and we are given so many opportunities. And I believe it is our duty as student attorneys and future attorneys to give back. I want to thank everyone at the pro bono program and all of the staff and attorneys who serve with the pro bono program. I also want to thank my friends and family for supporting me throughout law school. I believe that my time in the pro bono program was absolutely integral and priceless, and I'm so glad that I will be able to give back to the community and the program after I graduate. Thank you so much.
So next up is our Professor Award. This year's nominee was Lucy Wood, and introducing her will be Atticus Finch.
Howdy, everybody. My name is Atticus Finch. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to introduce Miss Lucy Wood for this award. Lucy is a dyed-in-the-wool public interest attorney. After receiving a Skadden Fellowship in 2000, Lucy climbed the ranks of Disability Rights Texas, working there to change the lives of disabled Texans. She has served as a senior attorney for the Texas Title Project, as director for the Justice Center Supportive Housing Project, and as co-director of the center's Contract for Deed Prevalence Project. Currently, Lucy is the fearless leader of the Include Project. Throughout the pandemic, I had the privilege to witness Lucy's Herculean efforts to make life a little easier and less scary for Texans living with disabilities. She's down to earth, sincere, kind, and the most stubborn person I've ever met. She's been my boss, my professor, my mentor, and my friend, and it gives me great joy to introduce her to y'all today. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I'm Professor Lucy Wood. I run the disability-related offerings within the Pro Bono program. I'd like to thank you very much for giving me this award. I also want to use my couple of minutes to think about 3 co-victories that we've experienced in the Pro Bono program. Even doing this exercise has made me happier. I hope you find this uplifting as well. The first involves kind of a sobering topic. A student had a call from a person with a neurodegenerative disease who wanted to draft end-of-life advance directives. We had never done that before, but the student decided we're going to do it because this young woman felt very, very afraid of COVID and vulnerable for that reason. And so the student got all the material together, created the toolkit, and with supervision delivered the service to this woman. And so the student just went out of their way to create this new service that we'll be able to use in the future. The second, when the pandemic hit and the schools were shuttered, I kind of didn't know what to do with the special education advocacy that was happening within the program last year. One of the students who's involved in the program, who was a leader in the program, said, I got this call about a child in the middle of nowhere who had been locked in a room by himself because the school did not have the resources or the goodwill to handle his educational needs appropriately. And that's a case we normally wouldn't have taken because it's so far away, we couldn't drive to be present. But the student convinced me, hey, Prof. Wood, Zoom is the way that we can do this. And ever since that student took that case and brought a bunch of other students on board, mediated it favorably, I think we've made the determination that we'll not confine our advocacy to urban centers or to convenient places anymore. And that was because of the pandemic and this student's response to it. So I'm really excited about that program for next year, which is really just going to be advocacy via Zoom in rural areas for children whose needs are truly not being met. And the third example is a little bit more lighthearted. Some of you may be familiar with supported decision-making. This is an alternative to guardianship. We typically reach hundreds of young high school students who are becoming of age, who have intellectual disabilities in particular, who wish to use this as a tool to avoid losing their rights to make decisions about their lives. And suddenly, again, we couldn't reach the high school population. The students decided to do it on college campuses with kids with ID who are in colleges. And this was amazing because they were all online and it was socially a much more vibrant audience for this Know Your Rights campaign, and to have them work through these documents online in a college setting with their faculty involved in the training was just amazing. It was really inspiring to see. This particular student had about 35 college students. Their parents were in another room on Zoom. The faculty from this university was on Zoom. I was there. Some volunteer attorneys were there. And all of a sudden, the law student's cat jumped on the screen and the whole thing just went crashing down. And then he had to gracefully reestablish all the Zoom connections so that we could do the work. And those are my 3 co-victories. I hope that you all have a wonderful summer. I can't wait to get the hell back on campus. Hug 'em.
Next up, we have the Staff Award, given to a UT staff member who has gone above and beyond in helping their community and supporting public interest. I am honored to announce and introduce this year's Staff Award recipient, Sarah Sedgwick, who's a program coordinator in the Justice Center. Like Andrea said earlier, Sarah is what makes the pro bono program run. Personally, Sarah has made my life and work easier countless times. She is the cornerstone of the Justice Center, managing clinics and projects with attorneys, pro bono scholars, and volunteers, and answering all of our questions with grace. Congratulations, Sarah. You deserve all of the recognition.
Hi, I'm Sarah Sedgwick, and I'm honored to accept the EPIA Faculty and Staff Award. I've been the program coordinator with the Pro Bono program here at UT for the last 6 years. Before that, I was an organizer for an educational nonprofit here in Austin for about 12 years. The Pro Bono program has grown a lot in my time with it, and it's been wonderful to see more students getting involved in public service. And as our capacity to train more students grows, we're able to help more people in the community, and that's been so gratifying to be a part of. I truly appreciate this recognition and look forward to continuing to help expand the reach of the Pro Bono program.
So the next category is for a public interest attorney in the community. This year's nominee was Gretchen Sween. Gretchen was unfortunately unable to make it to this year's EPIA Awards, but she did send along a message that I'd like to read to you all after a brief introduction of her work. Gretchen was described as a dedicated capital defense attorney who in 2021 won relief for one of her clients in the Supreme Court of the United States, and a few months later won relief for one of her clients in CCA, who is now off death row. That's just amazing. She works almost completely pro bono and is incredibly hardworking and dedicated, so a very well-deserved nominee. And her message to us was, "Dear Texas Law Fellowship, I have always viewed TLF as one of the brightest components of UT Law. The mission of helping peers help others could not be more worthy. I still have one of my Make Love Not Law Review t-shirts and wear it as a badge of honor. Finding a way to make a career of public interest is certainly a formula for happiness, because there is no better means to ensure happiness than to be paid for the work that you do. Satisfying both variables, getting paid and pursuing a passion, can be challenging, but there are real rewards in the struggle to make that happen. I hope you all have a summer ahead full of invigorating real-life education. Go forth and spark some meaningful change. Yours with gratitude and admiration, Gretchen Sween." Thank you so much, Gretchen, for those wonderful words. Next, I'd like to introduce the recipient of our second Private Attorney Award. We had 2 in this category because there was a tie. This goes to Emily Evie. Emily graduated from Texas Law in 2018, and she received a Voting Rights Fellowship when she graduated from Texas Civil Rights Project. And then eventually now she has been hired on as a voting rights staff attorney. She's worked so hard in the last 3 years on election protection efforts and voting rights advocacy for Texas. And the person who nominated her mentioned that they have seen her work tirelessly in the months, weeks, and days leading up to every single state, local, and national election that Texas has held since she has graduated, which, as you guys know, has been some pretty major and important elections. We're so grateful for the work that she does at the Texas Civil Rights Project and the ways in which she furthers the mission of public interest. Thank you so much, Emily.
Hi, my name is Emily Evie, and I am so honored to receive this year's Public Interest Attorney Award. I went to law school because I had an English major and I didn't want to teach or be a barista anymore. I don't have lawyers in my family. I had no idea what to expect, and 1L was really, really hard for me. It didn't start to click until I got involved with public interest at UT. I worked on things like the Include Disabilities Project, And that kind of experience really helped me remember why I'm sitting through torts, why I'm getting a JD. Then TLF funded my 1L summer at Texas Appleseed, where I got to travel all over Texas and meet with youth who are experiencing homelessness and ask them, what are your experiences, what has your life been like, and what policies do you want to see coming out of Austin in the next legislative session? When I fell in love with voting rights in my 2L year, the UT Law public interest community introduced me to amazing mentors like Mimi Marziani and Beth Stevens, who were doing the work that I wanted to do. And when I graduated, the public interest community at UT Law funded me just following those women around until they gave me a job at Texas Civil Rights Project. One of my favorite tasks I get to do at TCRP is helping run the Election Protection Hotline. That's where I explain complicated election laws to regular voters in plain English and train other lawyers to do the same. Making the law understandable to people is my greatest joy, at least in the work category, and I owe it all to public interest at UT Law for teaching me how. If you're thinking of reaching out to someone who does what you want to do, you should do it. This community is full of warm, intelligent, caring people who want to see y'all succeed. And then, when you do succeed, you can be the warm, intelligent, caring person for those coming up after you. Seriously, thank y'all so much for this award. This is a huge honor. Take that, imposter syndrome.
Our next award category was added after last year's EPIA had to be canceled. Since we couldn't celebrate last year's graduates, the 2020 Graduate Award came into being to provide recognition to a brand new attorney who made an impact during their time here at Texas Law. I'm happy to introduce our 2020 Graduate Award recipient, Meredith Luniak. While at UT, Meredith was a leader. They were the president of Outlaw, a member of the law school's Diversity and Inclusion Committee, and helped organize the annual Getting Radical in the South Conference. Meredith was also deeply involved with the Mithoff Pro Bono program, going on pro bono in January all 3 years, and working as a pro bono scholar for the Gender Affirmation Clinic, their 2L year, and addressing immigration matters during their 3L. Meredith is now working at the New Orleans Worker Center for Racial Justice, continuing to provide assistance to immigrants. I'm so glad that we were able to hold the EPIAs this year and finally celebrate Meredith. And with that, here they are.
Hey y'all, my name is Meredith Luniak, and I graduated from Texas Law in 2020. I gotta be honest, this time last year, when the Excellence in Public Interest Awards rolled around, the last thing on my mind was public interest work, which is probably a bad thing to admit. But I was, like most people, I was in my feelings about the pandemic. I was busy compulsively sanitizing my groceries, which was a thing we used to do. I downloaded TikTok, which I am not proud of, considering my proximity to 30. I baked bread. I baked so much bread. I watched Tiger King. I did all the things. But while I was busy lamenting the fact that my law school graduation was going to be virtual that year, and the fact that March Madness basketball wasn't happening, I was safe and healthy, and I wasn't worried about things like eviction, right? That wasn't the case for everyone, not at all. COVID-19 really exacerbated the systemic inequities on which our country is built. Our essential workers were abandoned without proper PPE. We allowed COVID to rage unchecked through our prisons and our jails and our detention centers. Disparities in access and treatment and death rates based on race and socioeconomics were laid bare. The virus showed us who we are and who we are failing. And for me, I didn't sign up to engage in pandemic advocacy. I would bet that a lot of us, maybe most of us, imagining a career in public interest, didn't have that in mind before last year. But we're here now. And the virus and the inequality it's exposed is necessitating that we get down to business and do what public interest and public interest law actually calls us to do, right? Which is to meet people's needs and help them meet their own needs where they are. In the first year of my legal career, that has meant responding to COVID-19 and the challenges that it poses for detained immigrants in detention centers, right? And low-income workers across Louisiana, in New Orleans, on seafood plants, in crawfish farms. But this challenge will keep evolving and changing, and so will the needs of the people that we serve as public interest lawyers and law students. And frankly, if we are even half as committed to this cause as I am to my sourdough starter, I know we can meet it head on. I really appreciate y'all, the folks at TLF, thinking of us 2020 grads in the creation of this award. And of course, I'm more appreciative still that y'all thought of me as a recipient. I gotta say, I'm really looking forward to watching as a lawyer and a Texas law grad, and observing how TLF and the broader public interest community at Texas Law continues to respond to the evolving landscape of justice and inequity, and I feel honored that y'all have named me a part of it with this award. Thank you.
Our last category tonight is the Pandemic Response Award. This award went to a student who has gone above and beyond to address problems created by the pandemic in our community. This year's nominee was Jacqueline Morales, and introducing her will be Michelle Juma.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Juma and I'm a Rising 3L here at Texas Law, and it is my honor to introduce my friend Jacqueline Morales. I consider Jacqueline to be one of my very best friends here at Texas Law. She's so kind, she's courageous, and she's such a force. She has helped so many during this pandemic. I know when I went to go get my vaccine, I was armed with the information I needed to know because of her. So without further ado, I introduce to you your TLF COVID response winner, Jacqueline Morales. Congratulations, Jacqueline. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much, TLF, for selecting me for the Pandemic Response Award. I'm very excited, very honored to be here to accept it. My name is Jacqueline Morales. I am a 2L, soon to be rising 3L, and I have helped 132 people in the state of Texas get a COVID-19 vaccine. Very excited to say that. This journey is ongoing. It has not stopped there. I started this initiative essentially when the governor of Texas decided to lift the mask mandate in the state. It really frustrated me, still frustrates me. I don't feel like the government is doing its job to protect us. I feel like the government is just, not looking at the most vulnerable, as it usually doesn't. It feels like people are left to fend for themselves, and so I decided to use my privilege, which was privilege of internet access. I'm able to look at screens for multiple hours a day and search for appointments, and I use that privilege to help those who are not able to do those things. And so that's what I did, and I started off very slow. I started letting people know what I was doing and trying to spread the word of what I was doing. I joined Facebook groups to see what other cities in the state, how they were handling COVID vaccines. I was just getting a lot of information from a lot of different people, a lot of different sources, and kind of just using that and sharing it as much as I could. And then very quickly, I was able to create wait lists for different cities. I still do have those, and just kind of tackle each city at a time, and I was able to get a lot of people vaccinated very quickly in a short amount of time. So I'm very proud of that. I feel like we as law students and as future lawyers have a duty to help the community as much as we can, and that duty stays around regardless of whether we decide to go to big law or maybe not even practice law. I think we have an enormous amount of privilege being where we're at, and we should use that to help those in need and those in marginalized communities. And so that's just what I'm doing, and I really encourage everyone else, everyone who's watching this, to do the same, to find ways to help, and big or small. I think you're going to be changing people's lives, and that's what matters, right? So thank you, TLF, again for choosing me for this award. I really appreciate the recognition. Thank you.
Well, that wraps up our 2020 to 2021 Excellence in Public Interest Awards. Thank you all for coming out. I'd like to give a special thank you to all of our nominees and the people who introduced them for submitting videos this week. And thank you to Dean Bangs for giving us an introduction. And special thank you to Texas Law Fellowships for all of your help putting this together. We hope to see you at next year's awards. And I'll turn it over to Cassie for a few closing remarks.
Thank you to everyone who is able to watch along with us tonight, and thank you to those who nominated folks for an EPIA. Finally, a huge, huge thank you to our recipients for the work you do and the energy you leave behind you. To me, your words inspire dedication and compassion. There is a lot of work to be done and a lot of challenges yet to be met, but it's good to take a minute and lift up those who are doing the good work. This marks the end of the 2021 EPIA, and I hope to see many of you in person next year. From all of us here at TLF, have a good night.